get to the thriller game, the final game from NFL Divisional Weekend. The Buffalo Bills traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, an overtime thriller of nothing but non-stop offense and elite quarterback play, as many people are now calling Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes the next Brady versus Manning type feud. I'm here for it, Trey. I mean, that was an unbelievable game from start to finish.
It is, and they've played 3 times, 4 times, I think, since the start of last year. And in those 4 games, it's 3. Excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 3. It's the cumulative point score has been the Chiefs 100 and the Bills 98. I mean, it's just that's how close it is. The only problem with this being Brady Manning is that Justin Herbert may have something to say about that. Joe Burrow may have something to say about that. Like, the AFC quarterback position is loaded. But, we've mythologized for years the first overtime playoff game between the Colts and the Giants, and Alan Amici, the Iron Horse, going in to give them the 23-17 win in the NFL championship game. And that's called the greatest game ever played. There's going to be a whole nother generation that's going to refer to that game Sunday night as the greatest game ever played. I hate that one of the quarterbacks in that game, no matter what happened, was going to be given the L. And literally, this is a loss for you. If you don't think this should be the defining reason why wins and losses are not a quarterback stat, what else could Josh Allen have done? What else could Josh Allen have done to win that game? He scored twice in the final 2 minutes to give his team the lead. The last time with 13 seconds left, and it wasn't enough because of an error by the special teams and the head coach, Sean McDermott. Squib it. If you squib that ball, and I know they're afraid of maybe positive yardage for Patrick Mahomes there, but if you squib it and you run 4 seconds off the clock, you don't have time to do what they did. They ran 2 plays, and they were in position to kick the field goal. And oh, by the way, the fact that Harrison Butker might have been the GOAT for the bad reasons in that game, like outside of Robbie Gould, he was the thing I was most sure of. He's the second most accurate kicker in NFL history. Now, granted, he's only played 5 seasons, but he's made over 90% of his kicks. And the reason that game was going the way of the Bills was he missed an extra point and a field goal. Otherwise, we might be talking about Josh Allen's heroics because they wouldn't have been enough. Those are 4 points that were left on the board. So that game is just, there's no way you can look at that game and say, oh yeah, Josh Allen, you take the loss here. No, the team takes the loss because they made a mistake. And there's all this uproar now about changing the overtime rule. And I'm fine with that uproar. And I have to be honest with you, in 2018, when it was the Chiefs and the Patriots, and they went to overtime and the Chiefs didn't get the touch ball and Tom Brady and company went right down the field and scored, I was one of those saying, we need to have both teams touch the ball. So I have to bring that same energy here, right? You can't be selective in your outrage. I liked it in this situation, but I didn't like it in this situation. So if I'm being honest with myself, yes, I would have loved to have seen Josh Allen have an opportunity to counter Mahomes, but that's not why they lost. They lost because they made a mental error on what to do with 13 seconds left. If, like, for example, I have no problem with the Chiefs losing despite all of Mahomes' greatness. They couldn't stop a 4th and 13. They couldn't stop a 4th and 13 in the 4th quarter that led to a touchdown. If you want to win, stop them on 4th and 13. If you're the Bills and you're complaining, don't let them get a field goal with 13 seconds left because you made a mental error on what to do on special teams. Overtime is not why the Bills lost that game. They lost that game because they allowed it to go to overtime because that's a mistake they made.
Well, and even allowing over 500 yards of offense, that's not going to get it done, unfortunately, for Leslie Frazier, who is.
Listen, yes, and by the way, I'm glad you brought that up because what Josh Allen did was amazing against a decent Chiefs defense. That was the number 1 overall defense, the number 1 scoring defense, and the number 1 passing defense that Patrick Mahomes eviscerated. Those 2 things are not the same. Both quarterbacks played great. I want to be 100% clear. But the challenge of what Mahomes was facing versus the challenge that Josh was facing without Tyrann Mathieu, by the way, and that was a huge loss in that game for Kansas City. And, I hope he's okay. It was a head injury. I hope he'll be able to play in the AFC Championship game. But you saw all those breakdowns on the back end. Tell me Tyrann Mathieu being back there wouldn't have made a difference. So I'm not taking anything away from Josh Allen. I want to be 100% clear. But if you're asking me what was more difficult, without question, it was what Patrick Mahomes had to do against that defense than what Josh Allen had to do against the Chiefs defense. That's just statistically accurate. That's not a take. That's not an opinion. That's just a fact.
Yeah, no, spot on too. And now Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, are going to have to sit another year and say, how can we get over the hump of trying to overcome the Kansas City Chiefs? Now, I think if you're any other team, look, you mentioned Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, but if you're any other team in the NFL that doesn't have a quarterback, or in the AFC, you're looking at last night and you're just like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a very tough task regardless of anything. Now, Trey, before we get you out of here real quick, we do have one question that came through our chat here, twitch.tv/Pro Football Network. It comes in from PFN Superfan 1. He asked the question, do the Chiefs have the potential to be the Patriots of this era where they roadblock a lot of great teams from titles?
Well, yeah, I think they do. And let's go back to that 2018 AFC Championship game to prove my point here, okay? That game goes to overtime because a game-clinching interception was negated by D Ford lining up off sides. So I put this out there on Twitter yesterday, just reminded the only person that can stop Patrick Mahomes at home in the postseason is his former teammate D Ford. Like if that, and that had nothing to do with the interception. He just lined up in the neutral zone. That game's over. So if that happens and that doesn't go to overtime, we're talking about the Chiefs trying to go to their fourth straight Super Bowl. Only one team has gone to 4 straight Super Bowls, the Buffalo Bills. They managed to lose all 4, which is a separate issue entirely. However, they went to 4 straight Super Bowls. So hell yeah, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are about to be that New England Patriots team. Patrick Mahomes, this is the first time any team, not even the Patriots with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady could ever say we had home field advantage for the conference championship game 4 straight years. It has never happened before in NFL history. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City. And I don't see a reason with the way the team is structured and how young the players still are that won't be the overwhelming favorite thing to happen when we start playing 2022 regular season. They are every much going to be that team that's going to block a lot of teams' chances of getting to the Super Bowl.